Hi, I'm Stephen Mann, and I'm here today with our county manager, Mr. Ron Hunt.
Yes.
And today we're here again after last year's budget presentation video, where things look much different than they do this year.
Yes, they do.
We had some construction going on, a few noises in the background, but we're here today to talk about the proposed 2026 fiscal year budget. So Ron, to start off with, what is the total budget that is proposed for this year?
The proposed budget, and it's nice to see you all again, the proposed budget is $137,474,982. So, quite a normal sized budget for a county this size that's growing, but still, I think we'll talk more in a little bit about just what the percent of growth in this budget.
So what is the proposed tax rate for this year?
So I'm glad you asked that. It's 59.5 cents. This is the same tax rate that commissioners approved last year. So there is no tax increase in this year's budget as far as the tax rate. It remains the same. I've had lots of questions on that and lots of people, looking online, and this is the source that you need to get your information from, the county government. It's 59.5 cents. There is no tax increase proposed in this year's budget. It hasn't been approved yet, but it remains the same. The tax rate is 59.5 cents.
Okay, great. So although this year's budget represents a 1.4% growth over last year's budget, we're saying that this is the smallest budget growth rate since 2019. Can you expand upon that?
That is correct. Every year we look at our budgets and how they grow, and some years will be a little bit more flat, and some years there'll be large growth due to certain things. That large growth may be, there may be a lot of capital that year, or it may be that the county is having to fund something unexpected that year. What I want our citizens to know is that it's just real important to know that we are good stewards of county taxpayer dollars. And in this year's proposed budget, it's 1.4% is the increase. And we went back all the way to 2019, and that year had like 1.7 or 1.3, somewhere around in there. But this year's 1.4, we were able to kind of prioritize our capital, and we'll talk about that a little more later, while continuing to invest. And then our departments do really, really well coming in at or under budget each year. Our commissioners, when they set the budget, hold us to it. And so it's up to our department heads and our amazing staff to go through each and every year and make sure they're following an estimated budget. And that's all we can do is estimate. So when we went back and looked, it was 1.4% above, like I said, 2019.
Okay. So what are the top 3 expenditures that the county must allocate budget towards?
And they would be about the top 3% in every county in the state of North Carolina. If you go out there and look, it's very consistent. The percents will be different. It's human services at 29%, public safety at 26%, and education at 23%.
Okay. So you mentioned capital. Can you explain what capital is, and what are some of the larger capital needs that this year's budget will fund?
Yes. So capital, running a county government, we have lots of buildings, facilities, cars, vehicles, equipment for our staff to do the things they need to do to serve you, our citizens. And so it's those kinds of things. We have aging buildings, as a lot of counties do. We're not unique in that regard. And so in this year, well, let me get back. Last year in that budget, I think you and I were talking before we started the video, I mentioned that we needed commissioners and our staff to kind of budget capital a little bit differently, to build a capital improvements plan and then begin a constant assessment of that capital. And we did just that. Our staff were amazing this year. Our new engineer, the first county engineer for Wilson County, came on board. And to be more efficient, to continue to be good stewards of taxpayer dollars, the engineer came on board and started building a true capital improvements plan. So we did those 3 things. This year in the budget, you hear me say, and I would invite you to go online. Stephen's done a marvelous job of putting out there the video as well as the budget message, and the entire budget has been posted. But this year we must assess our capital moving forward, allocate our resources, our financial resources, and advance through the capital plan to get the projects actually completed. So wonderful things like when you go in your buildings, you don't want them to be falling apart or leaking or we have to fix things like steps and roofs and electricity kinds of issues. A lot of our buildings had aging windows, those types of things. And so every year there's a need. And in some instances, we have a need for new facilities. And I think you and I covered this last year. Wilson County has done a really good job. Our commissioners have put a lot of our ARPA dollars, the American Rescue Plan dollars, into new facilities. One of the greatest that is meeting you where you are, our citizens, is the EMS stations, the substations. And right now we're completing the North Central City Station, which I know you've been highlighting a lot.
Looks great.
And I appreciate that. And then pretty soon we'll be breaking ground on the EMS East Station. So all of this is to meet you where you are, to serve your needs the best that we know how to do as a county government. And each year when we do our budget, we have to include capital in that. We can't just start a budget and then every time a need comes up, pop up before commissioners and ask them for money. So we try to forecast that a little better. And so building that capital improvements plan, I know I've spent a lot of time talking about this, but it's critical to us having a better manageable budget, but also it's critical to the future needs of Wilson County, and we are growing, so there are needs.
So you presented your proposed budget to commissioners at this month's board meeting. Then this past week, the commissioners met for a work session to go line by line, ask department heads questions. So you touched on this earlier about us being fiscally responsible and good stewards of taxpayer dollars, and that is very evident in the way that our commissioners handle the budget. I mean, I sat through these meetings, I heard them ask very specific, very detailed questions about departments from all over the county, and why are you spending this money, why do you need this money, and there were all good reasons why, but I appreciated the fact that they were digging that deeply into it, rather than saying, here's the number, let's sign off on it and move forward. So they are very diligent in the process. So what are the next steps in this budget process before it's finalized?
Well, Stephen, I'm glad you mentioned that. So the night of the budget presentation, right after I gave the presentation, commissioners immediately dove into the revenue portions. That's where the county receives the revenues to do what we do. And they go line by line in revenues and line by line in expenditures. It is a very transparent process. And so if that's another takeaway when you're watching this, I want you to take away. Our commissioners, this wonderful, amazing group that sits behind us, when they're here for meetings, they go line by line on the budget. And that night they did revenues. And then we came back last Thursday night. They recessed until then, and they went line by line on expenditures. And we had a lot of our wonderful department head leaders here, and they were able to answer some specific questions, because you're right. They questioned, what's this line for? What's this money for? Did we get the best cost on whatever it may be? They were able to ask those questions and get those things answered, and then tell me and my staff any additional work that we need to do to get that information to them. So now we fast forward to the public hearing, which, let me make sure I got the date right. It's May 29th. It's going to be here at Wilson County Government Center at 7 p.m. But that is the public hearing, which A, we welcome hearing from the public, and B, it is required by law in North Carolina that you give a public hearing for the budget before commissioners approve it. In the state of North Carolina, all budgets for cities and counties must be approved by June 30th. So after they have the public hearing, commissioners are free to pass the budget that night or some other time as well. But we try to start a little bit earlier here in Wilson County. I heard from another county manager friend, it was us and I think 2 or 3 more counties did ours last week, so we're kind of ahead of the game. And it allows commissioners the time and our staff the time to do that. So a very open, transparent process. Cannot say enough about our staff, people like you, our Deputy County Manager, Lori Winstead, our Finance Director, Angel Landro, and our Assistant Finance Director, Danae Windsor, and all of our department heads, which it would take the rest of this to kind of name, but we couldn't do it without them. It takes a lot of teamwork, not to overuse that word, but it takes a lot of teamwork to get this done. And then our commissioners are just, I always say it all the time, some of the best in the state.
I agree.
They do go through the budget process very thoroughly.
Well, I know you put a ton of time into this each year to make sure that this process runs smoothly. So I know the commissioners especially appreciate that, and the citizens of Wilson County appreciate your due diligence and putting the time in to make sure that this is as efficient as possible. So thank you for your time today, and we will sit down again once the budget is passed and go through if there are any changes and kind of what the finalized budget looks like.
I look forward to it, and I just want to say again thanks to everyone throughout the entire process. Wilson is a growing county, and that can't be underscored enough. So with that comes needs, and so I'm looking forward to what the future holds. But I'm certainly appreciative of the process. We start on it very, very early, and so I'm glad to be where we are.
All right. Well, thank you, Ron.
Thank you.
And thank you for tuning in.
Thank you.